Scene 2 of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs by Jesse Braham White. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Scene 2. In the forest. Great trees meet over a wild and overgrown path. It is after sunset, and the light is fading fast. A small brown bird flies above the path, chirping a little call, and perches in a tree just out of sight. Snow White, running gaily, follows the bird.
"Yes, little brown bird, I heard you. You want another answer? Wait until I get my breath."
She whistles in imitation of the bird's call.
"What? Flying on again, as soon as you've made sure I've heard? Where are you trying to lead us?" "Berthold, there's the brown bird again. He seems to be trying to get me to follow him. He's perched on that tree now, waiting for me to come up."
The bird calls again, and Snow White tries to imitate the call in words.
"Come, Snow White, come, Snow White. Is that what you're trying to say?" I'm coming."
And she runs on, following the bird. Berthold comes into sight. As he sees how lonely the spot is, and how dark with the shadows of the great trees, he halts irresolutely, and murmurs to himself.
"It may as well be here as anywhere. Mile after mile you have put it off, till the next turn, or some more shadowed spot. But that is no kindness to the princess. Remember your own children, man. It must be here."
He calls after Snow White, and his voice is hoarse.
"Princess, come back."
"What is it, Berthold? You want me?"
She runs back, and slips her hand into his.
"There's the bird again. He seems to know the way better than you do. Do you think he can know I'm going to boarding school?"
The bird calls again, and she answers.
"Don't be so impatient. I shall stay with Berthold just as long as I like. He's a much older friend of mine than you are. What did you want, Berthold?"
Oh, dear princess.
But he cannot go on.
"Why are you so pale? Have you hurt yourself?"
She tries to take his hand again, but he draws it away.
"Oh, you're angry with me? Something I did or said hurt your feelings? I didn't mean to. Please forgive me."
Forgive you, princess?
He kneels before her and cries out in anguish.
Oh, say you can forgive me.
"Forgive you? For what?"
She tries to raise his bowed head, that she may see his face.
"What is it, Berthold?"
Don't look at me, princess. Don't look at me.
He folds his arms about her and hides his face in her dress.
"Oh, whatever it is, tell me. I'm afraid."
The Queen.
"The Queen?"
The Queen has commanded me to kill you here, in this forest, now."
Looking down at him in wonder.
"Kill me? I don't understand. You're taking me to school. Oh, you're joking. I call that a silly joke. Stupid old Berthold. A very silly joke. Look at me. No, look at me."
Slowly he raises his head. She reads the truth in his face, and with a cry springs from him.
"Oh, it's true. It's true. I know it. That was why the Queen— But you won't, will you? See, Berthold, I don't run away. I come right to you. I creep into your arms. You won't hurt me, will you?"
Oh, my darling, if it were my life alone that were at stake, I would suffer any torture rather than harm a hair of your beloved head. But the Queen—
"Oh, you mean that the Queen will kill you unless—"
Not me, princess, but my children. She has shut them up in the grey tower, and she will starve them to death."
"Oh, Berthold! I know your little children. They have blue eyes and yellow hair. I've played with them. She would do it too."
She thinks a moment, then with sudden resolution goes on.
"Kiss me good-bye, Berthold. I couldn't live and think of your children. See, I'm not crying. I'm not even very frightened. I'll turn away and shut my eyes. But please be quick.
Staggers to his feet and makes a fumbling movement for his knife, but as he touches it, he sinks down again with a cry.
Oh, I cannot, Princess. I cannot.
But you must, Bethold. How else can you save your children?
I will find some way. Some way.
No, it's not possible, Bethold.
It's not possible for me to kill your Highness.
Bethold, considering the way the Queen has behaved, do you think it would be very wrong to tell her a story?
Wrong?
Because if it weren't wrong, might you tell her that you'd killed me without doing it?
But the proof. She has commanded me to bring her your heart before midnight.
My heart? I've never seen a heart. I don't suppose a little piece of beefsteak would look at all like it, would it?
No, but...
He springs up.
Why not the heart of some beast? I might catch a wild pig here in the forest and... But no, I couldn't leave you here alone. You would starve.
Couldn't I live like the birds, on berries?
But the winter will come, and... Oh, your Highness, there are savage beasts in this wood.
I haven't seen one, not a living creature but my little brown bird.
It was daytime, and I was with you, but it is growing dark, and at night...
But if you don't take the heart to the Queen before midnight, you know what she will do. The most savage beast would be less cruel, and you must catch the wild pig before it is too dark to see.
No, I dare not leave your Highness.
Pretending to be struck with a new idea.
Bethold, could you find this place again?
Find it? Every inch of the way is branded on my brain.
Then tomorrow hide some food in your tunic and come back again, and we can plan. You might build me a little hut and bring me food every day like a mother bird, and I could live a little lone forest princess.
I might, but...
Oh, please, there is no other hope, is there?
None that I can see.
Then hurry. It is getting darker every moment. Kiss me good-bye quickly.
She puts her face up to his.
Until tomorrow, dear Bethold.
My princess, heaven keep you. Until tomorrow.
He hastens away, calling after him.
Goodbye, dearest Bethold.
Then to herself.
Poor Bethold. Does he think the Queen will ever let him out of her sight again? No, she will shut him up in prison for fear that he might tell. He will never come back. Goodbye for ever, Bethold.
A sudden terror seizes her.
Oh, it's goodbye for ever, everybody.
She starts after him, crying,
Bethold, come back! Come back!
But remembering, she clasps her hands over her mouth to stifle the cry.
Hush! Snow White! Think of his children! Think of his children!
With a little moan, she sinks to the ground.
Oh, but what shall I do? Where shall I go? I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Afraid.
And she hides her face among the leaves. The call of the little brown bird is heard almost overhead. At first, Snow White does not hear, and the bird repeats the cry that sounds almost like, "Come, Snow White." Looking up in wonder.
Oh, little bird, are you still here? You haven't left me. I think you are my friend, the only friend I have in all this world now.
The bird flies off a little way, and then perches and repeats his call.
Are you telling me to follow you, as you did before? But where shall I follow? I have nowhere to go. I wish I could live in your nest, little bird.
Again the bird calls, and Snow White rises and follows where he flies.
Yes, I will follow. I trust you.
She runs out of sight among the trees, calling softly as she goes.
I hear. I am coming. I am following, little brown bird.
The curtain falls. End of Scene 2. Scene 3 of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs by Jesse Bram White. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Scene 3. In the house of the Seven Dwarfs. The dwarfs' house is very tiny. It is built of rough stones and logs, and niched into a hillside in the depths of the great wood. It has but one room, 2 windows, and a half door. Along one side of the room are ranged 7 little beds of different sizes. On the other is a stone fireplace for cooking, and a rustic pump with a barrel under its spout to catch the water. In the middle of the stone floor stands a low table with 7 places laid for supper. A single candle on the table lights the room. Through the window we see the forest, dim in the moonlight. Presently the little brown bird flies past, and perches on a branch just outside, still calling Snow White to follow him. They have come a long way, and she is very tired and hungry. But as she sees the little house, and realizes at last where the brown bird was leading her, she runs up and peeps in through the window.
Oh, was it toward this light you were leading me, brown bird? Why, it's a little house. Are you flying away now? Please let me thank you first. See, I blow you a kiss. He's gone. Perhaps birds don't like kisses. Their faces are so sharp. Goodbye, little friend.
She looks cautiously through the window into the house.
What a queer little room. 7 beds, and all so small. There must be lots of children in the family. Nobody with so many children could be wicked. May I come in?
As there is no answer, she knocks at the door and opens it a crack.
Please, good people, may I come in to rest? Just for a moment. I'm lost in the forest.
Still no answer. She creeps into the room and looks about.
Nobody at home. But they couldn't mind if I sat down. Just a minute. Oh, there is the children's supper, all laid out. I'm so hungry. If I took just a bit, only a tiny bit, from each place, I'm sure they couldn't be angry.
She goes to the table, and as she nibbles a morsel at each place, she sings to herself.
A sip of water from this cup, of porridge just one tiny sup. I'll take this little knife to spread a corner of the next one's bread, and borrow this wee fork to break a morsel from this barley cake. I'll take 1 cherry from these 4, but not a single mouthful more. No, not a single mouthful more. Nobody could begrudge me that, but I'd like to do something to pay for my supper.
She looks about.
There's plenty to be done. It isn't at all a tidy house.
She yawns, and then shaking herself.
Wake up, Snow White. You mustn't get sleepy yet. Not till the people come home.
But she cannot quite stifle another yawn.
There's a broom. Suppose I sweep a little.
She begins to sweep, but the broom raises such a cloud of dust that, coughing, she has to stop at once.
Dear me, that only makes things worse. This floor needs a good scrubbing. I might make up the beds.
She goes to the biggest bed, but she is so tired that she sits down on it a moment before beginning.
This one looks as if it hadn't been made up for years and years and years. I wonder if it's as humpy to lie on as it is to sit on.
She lies down to try it.
Oh, it's more. It's humpy and bumpy and bumpy and humpy and...
Her voice trails away into silence. She has fallen asleep. For a time all is quiet in the little room. Then from far underground is a sound of distant knocking. It comes nearer till it sounds just under the house. Finally, a great stone slab in the floor is pushed up slowly, and from an underground passage that leads from the house into the deep mines, 6 of the 7 dwarfs clamber up into sight. Their names are Blick, Flick, Glick, Snick, Plick, and Whick. They are very small, the tallest hardly above your waist, but they are extremely old, and their beards are long and grey. Each carries a lighted lantern and a pickaxe, and bears a heavy sack over his shoulder. As soon as the last one has climbed into the room, they form in line, with Blick, the eldest, at the head.
Now, brothers, evening roll call. Blick. Here. Flick.
Here.
Glick.
Here.
Snick.
Here.
Plick.
Here.
Quick.
Here.
Quee. Quee.
Blick shakes his head sadly.
Late as usual. He's been stealing again. Whatever shall we do with that boy?
All the dwarfs sigh and hang their heads with shame at Quee's conduct. But Blick goes on.
Well, brothers, what result of today's work? 1/2 ton of gold nuggets for mine.
He takes a handful of enormous nuggets from his sack. The others also exhibit their treasures as they name them.
100 weight of silver dust.
50 pounds of diamonds.
A bushel of rubies.
A gallon of emeralds.
A peck of opals.
Fair, fair, but we ought to work longer hours.
Yes, what's the good of coming home except to sleep?
And have supper.
Oh, that supper.
I know, it's wretched. If we cook at night, it's too hot to eat. If we cook it in the morning, it's cold and dusty by night. But what else can we do?
And I'd rather sleep underground than in those beds.
So would we.
I know, they haven't been made in 12 years. But it doesn't pay to take time from digging diamonds to make beds. So what can we do?
Nothing.
But if we didn't come home to supper, we wouldn't have to wash.
Oh, brothers, washing is a duty. Hush, I think I hear Quee.
They all cock their heads sidewise like robins and listen.
Yes, that's Quee. He has been stealing again. We must scold him soundly.
It never does any good.
But we must bring him up in the way he should go. He is the youngest of us. He's only 99 next April. Clear away and ready for him.
They pile their sacks in a corner and squat on the floor in a semicircle, with Blick, like a presiding judge, in the center. Quee creeps up stealthily through the underground passage. He is much the smallest, but grey-bearded like the rest. As he faces his brothers, one finger creeps into his mouth. Blick greets him sternly.
Quee, you are late again.
Quee nods.
Been stealing as usual, I suppose?
Quee nods, shaking their fingers at him reprovingly.
Oh.
You know it's wrong.
Very, very wrong.
Quee nods.
Did anybody catch you at it?
Quee shakes his head.
That's good, as far as it goes.
Did you get me a mousetrap?
Quee nods.
And my candles.
Quee nods.
And a pin?
Quee nods.
I'm glad of that. I've never seen a pin.
Of course, you understand, Quee, that stealing is a sin, and that your conduct makes us very sad?
Very sad.
Sad.
Will you promise to reform and never, never steal again?
Wait. Give him the list of things to get tomorrow first.
Dear me, I almost forgot. Quee, tie a string around your finger to remember by. Now, what do you all want?
A chain, a plane, a weather vane.
A hat, a mat, a pussy cat.
A pound of brass.
A pane of glass.
A crock, a lock, an 8-day clock.
A can, a pan, a pommely fan.
A tack, a sack, an almanac.
A can of soup.
A chicken coop.
A map, a cap, a snappy trap.
A pole, a bowl, a baker's roll.
A rake, a cake, a pound of steak.
A peck of meal.
A pickled eel.
A slate. A plate. A 10-pound weight.
That's all for tomorrow. But remember, young man, if it's a sin to steal a pin, how much worse it must be to steal a 10-pound weight. You appreciate that?
Quee nods sadly.
Brothers, we shall have to correct him again tomorrow night. He is incorrigible.
Incorrigible.
Now for the evening washing. Get the basin, Quee.
Glad that his daily scolding is over, Quee runs cheerfully and fetches a basin of water, a big sponge, and a towel.
No flinching now, brothers. Line up. Right faces.
They all, except Quee, stand close together and thrust their faces over one another's shoulders with eyes closed. Running down the line, Quee washes all their right cheeks with one long sweep of his sponge.
Reverse.
They all turn and face in the opposite direction, and Quee, running up the line, washes all their other cheeks.
Right faces.
With a single sweep of his towel, Quee now dries all their right cheeks, and when Blick commands
reverse,
he dries the opposite sides in the same neat and speedy way, and the evening washing is finished.
There. That's over for another 24 hours.
Thank goodness.
Oh, come. It's quick and comparatively painless. Only Quee gets dirtier and dirtier every year.
But somebody must do it.
He's the youngest.
It's his duty.
Nevertheless, he's a disgrace to the family.
Quee bows his head in shame.
I'm glad that you realize it at least.
And now, supper.
Supper. No hurry, it's been getting cold ever since breakfast.
With lagging steps they march to the table and are about to eat when Blick starts back in surprise.
I say, someone's been drinking from my cup.
Someone has eat my porridge up.
And used my brand new knife to spread a monstrous corner of Quee's bread.
Someone has used my fork
to break a quarter off my barley cake.
One cherry's missing from my 4.
And goodness gracious, how much more?
They gaze at each other in amazement.
Brothers, there must be robbers in the house.
Or pirates.
Or burglars.
Probably burglars. If so, they are under the beds. Burglars always are. Hush. Let every man look under his own bed.
Each dwarf creeps to his bed and peers cautiously under it. Then, one after the other, they rise, shaking their heads and saying,
Nobody under my bed.
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 Blick is the last to rise, but as he does so, he sees Snow White and cries in a tense whisper,
There's something in it. Look, brothers.
In wonder, the dwarfs creep about Blick's bed, and holding their lanterns high, gaze down upon the sleeping Snow White. An ah of admiration breaks from their lips.
What is it?
I know. It's a child.
No, it's a girl. I saw one once.
Well, girl or child, it's the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
Or I. Is it tame, or will it fly away like a bird when it wakes up?
I've heard that children are quite tame, and they can talk.
Oh.
I tell you, this isn't a child. It's a girl. I don't think girls can talk.
They all heave a sigh of disappointment.
I wish she'd stay with us just so that we could look at her.
She won't.
Why not?
Of course she won't. Are we handsome or young or tall? In fact, aren't we dwarfs?
They all hang their heads.
But if we didn't tell her that...
Flick, I wonder at you. Besides, she might find it out.
She's beautifully white and clean. Look, she's had the broom. She's been trying to sweep.
I can't bear to think of her leaving us.
None of us can.
I'm going to stay up all night just to watch her.
Do you think there's any way we can persuade her to stay?
I'm afraid not.
Even if we laid presents on her bed?
What kind of presents? Gold and diamonds?
Oh, not common things like that. Really valuable things like my jackknife.
Oh, things like that. It might, but I'm afraid not.
We might try anyhow. Let each man give the most valuable thing he has in the world.
Blick collects the gifts. Each dwarf names his present lovingly as he takes it from his pocket.
My thimble.
My almanac.
My empty bottle.
And my pet frog.
laying the gifts gently on the foot of Snow White's bed.
There, that may help. But no, it's no use, brothers. There's Quee.
Yes, there is Quee. We might hide him?
She'd be sure to find him sooner or later.
He might reform.
But we could never pretend he wasn't dirty. He hasn't been washed for 50 years.
With a sudden inspiration.
Brothers, why not wash him now?
We might.
We will.
Flick, you're a genius. But it must be done at once, or he won't be dry by morning. Get the utensils. Here's the pump to douse him with.
Here are suds to souse him with.
Here's the sponge to sop him with.
Here's the broom to mop him with.
Here's the soap to scrub him with.
Here's the cloth to rub him with.
They surround Quee, who stands abashed, his finger in his mouth.
Quee, you are going to be...
washed. They carry him to the barrel, plump him in with a great splash, and pump on him. Then, as they scrub and rub and soap and stir him about in the water, they chant in chorus.
Here's the pump to douse him with.
Here are suds to souse him with.
Here's the sponge to sop him with.
Here's the broom to mop him with.
Here's the soap to scrub him with.
Here's the cloth to rub him with. Rub.
Scrub.
Mop.
Sop.
Souse.
Douse.
Rub.
Scrub.
Mop.
Sop.
Souse.
Douse.
In their excitement, they forgot to be as quiet as they had meant to be, and Snow White stirs in her sleep. Then she wakes and sits up.
Where is this? Oh, there are the children that live here. Why, they're not children. They have long beards. They're queer little old men. They'll never let me stay with them. But I must tell them I'm here.
She rises and, standing by the bed, says shyly,
I beg your pardon.
The dwarfs turn suddenly, with a little curtsy.
I'm sorry if I have disturbed you, but I was lost in the forest, and when I saw your house I was so tired and hungry that I came in and took a little food, without asking. Then I'm afraid I fell asleep.
She waits for an answer, but the dwarfs gaze at her in silence, so she falters on.
I'd pay for it, but I haven't any money. So all I can do is to say thank you and good night.
She moves reluctantly to the door. The dwarfs sigh deeply. She turns for a farewell curtsy.
Thank you very much.
She half shuts the door behind her, then reopens it to repeat,
Good night.
There is no answer, except another heavy sigh from the dwarfs. With sudden pity she bursts out,
Oh, you're not dumb, are you?
No, we're not dumb, but you're a girl, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a girl.
And young?
I'm not very old.
We don't know how to talk to young people.
Well, most grown people begin, Why, how you've grown. And usually the next thing is, How do you like your school?
How you've grown.
How do you like your school?
Smiling but a little embarrassed.
Well, perhaps it is a little late for conversation. It's long past bedtime, isn't it?
Long past.
There are 6 of you and 7 beds, aren't there?
Hastily putting the cover on the barrel.
Yes, there are 7 beds.
Oh, before I go, perhaps I ought to tidy the one I slept in. I didn't tumble it much.
She goes to the bed.
What are these things on it?
She starts back.
Oh, what's a frog? It's alive.
He was my frog. He's perfectly tame.
What a funny thing to put on a bed.
Edging toward her eagerly.
They were meant to be presents.
Presents? Is it Christmas here?
We don't know. We don't know what Christmas is.
Oh, somebody's birthday?
No, it's nobody's birthday.
Then I don't see.
They were meant to be presents for you.
For me?
We were afraid you wouldn't like them.
I knew you wouldn't like them.
But I do like them. Do you mean that you're not angry with me? That you don't dislike me so very much?
Dislike you?
We think you're the most wonderful thing we've ever seen.
Oh, you darlings! Oh, I beg your pardon. Perhaps that wasn't respectful.
Nobody ever called us darlings before, so we don't know.
but it sounds nice.
And you wouldn't mind if I should stay tonight? Only just tonight?
We wouldn't mind if you should stay forever, only just forever.
Forever?
Oh, will you?
Oh, will you let me? Please let me live with you. I could be so useful.
But our housekeeping...
That's just how I could be useful. I can cook and sew and sweep and brew and make beds and, oh, lots of things.
Will you excuse us a moment, please?
He calls the dwarfs together and whispers to them.
Did I hear right? Did she say she would stay?
She did.
Whatever shall we say?
We don't know.
Turning again to Snow White.
Could you tell us what it's usual to say when you're so glad that it almost bursts you?
Would hip hip hooray do?
It sounds right. Hip hip hurrah.
Hip, hip, hurrah!
Then, deciding that it does fit their feelings, they shout in a joyous outburst.
Hip, hip, hurrah!
Clapping her hands.
Oh, please may I say hip hip hooray too? I am so glad and grateful.
Hip, hip,
hooray! But, oh, you may not want me when I tell you who I am. It may be dangerous.
Do you steal?
No, not so bad as that. My name is Snow White.
It sounds extremely clean.
This morning I was a princess.
She sits on Blick's bed to tell her story. She is growing drowsy again.
What's a princess?
Why, the daughter of a king and queen. My stepmother is Queen Brangomar. She hates me so much that I am afraid there must be something horrid about me. But I am sure Prince Florimond didn't not like me, for...
She sinks back onto the bed and her eyes close. The dwarfs put their fingers to their lips. Then she revives a little and murmurs,
For a year and a day. Oh, what was I saying? I'm so sleepy. Please, mayn't I tell you tomorrow night? All I can think of now is good night.
Good night, Snow White.
Good night.
Good night, Snow White.
Good night.
Good night, Snow White.
Good.
There is a silence.
Brothers, she's asleep, but she'll stay. She'll stay.
Hip, hip, hurrah!
I'm so happy I'm sad.
Wiping away a tear with his long beard.
I'm so happy, it's making me cry. We're all so happy.
They all wipe their eyes with their beards.
We mustn't wake her. Not a sound now. We'll be quietest in bed.
Each dwarf creeps toward his bed.
She's in my bed. Well, I'll take Flicks.
He moves to the next bed, jumps in, and pulls the clothes over his head. Dwarfs always sleep with the bedclothes over their heads. Of course, each of the others has to move up one bed. As they pop in, one after another, and to cover their heads, they cry,
I'll take Glicks.
I'll take Snicks.
I'll take Plix.
I'll take Wicks.
I'll take Queeze.
sitting up suddenly.
Brothers, we've forgotten Quee.
They all sit bolt upright. Then in a whisper they call,
Quee!
The cover over the water barrel is pushed up, and Quee's head appears. He is very wet, but washed as clean and pink as a new doll.
Quee, she'll stay, but you'll have to sleep in the barrel.
Hip hip, hurrah!
He disappears again into the barrel, and the curtain falls. End of Scene 3. Scene 4 of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs by Jesse Braham White. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Scene 4. Where the Witch Lives. Witch Hex lives in a queer dark place, somewhat like a cavern, with walls of soft black moss. Yet it can't be underground, for looking out through the single entrance that serves for both door and window, you can see the moon, very big and low, and always shining day or night. A great fire blazes in the middle of the floor, and over it stands a boiling cauldron. Against the wall is a large chest, carved with strange signs, in which the witch keeps her magic things. Curled up asleep by the fire lies her pet cat, Fiddle. Fiddle is enormous for a cat, almost as big as a small boy. Presently he wakes, yawns, and has a long stretch, shaking the last sleepiness out of both hind legs. Then he washes his face carefully, round and round, with his paw. He feels hungry, so he rubs his stomach, but as that doesn't do much good, he looks about for something to eat. A large tin with holes bored in the cover stands on the chest, and he remembers seeing his mistress sprinkle something from this over her food. So he lies down on his back luxuriously, and, licking his chops, takes the tin in both hind paws and shakes it vigorously over his open mouth. But suddenly, with an enormous yowl, he leaps into the air, coughing, blinking, sneezing, and mewing all at once. What he found was the witch's pepper pot. The pepper makes him feel extremely lively, and now he spies a loose end of yarn dangling from an old spinning wheel that stands in a dark corner. He bounds to it and pats the swinging end to and fro. But the wool catches one of his sharp claws, and he cannot throw it off. He rolls on the ground to break it, but the yarn is strong and only binds him round and round. Now he is frightened and begins to run and whirl and spring into the air. But with every movement the thread, unwinding from the wheel, wraps him closer and closer. And the more he spins and turns and somersaults head over heels, the more tangled he gets, till at last he cannot move a paw or even swing his indignant tail, and lies on his back a helpless, mewing bundle. Fortunately, at this moment there's a shadow across the moon, and Witch Hex flies home, riding on her broomstick, a basket on her arm. The witch, alighting and setting her broomstick away.
There! Glad to be home at last. Where is Queen Brangamar? I thought she'd be here before me with Snow White's heart. I had to go halfway to the moon for the other ingredients for that magic hair restorer, but I've got them all safe in my basket. Where is that lazybones cat of mine? Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle!
The only answer is a faint mew from something like a huge ball of yarn in the corner. The witch examines it, and then breaks into a laugh.
Well, Fiddle, whatever have you been up to now? Oh ho! Playing with my spinning wheel. Well, you are a snarl. Wait, I'll unwind you.
She seizes one end of the yarn and winds it into a ball, but so quickly that poor Fiddle, at the other end, spins and whirls and revolves like a top as she unwinds him, and the witch laughs at his antics until the tears stream down her withered old cheeks. When he is free, Fiddle has to sit in a corner and hold his head in both paws for dizziness. But, picking up her basket, the witch says,
Now come here and help me mix that magic hair restorer. We must do all the other ingredients together before Brangamar comes.
The witch and Fiddle dance round and round the cauldron in a mystic circle. And as Hex throws the various things she has collected into the boiling brew, she sings,
A hair from the tail of a ride-a-cock horse, a lace from the old woman's shoe, a bit of the tuffet of little Miss Muffet, the blast of the little boy blue, a tear of the kittens who lost all their mittens when they began to cry, a sniff from Miss Mary when she was contrary, the plum from Jack Horner's pie, a slice of green cheese from the Man in the Moon, the tales of the 3 blind mice, a bone from the cupboard of old Mother Hubbard, and little girls' sugar and spice, a tick from the clock of Hickory Dock, the tales of the sheep of Bo Peep, the eye of the fly that saw Cock Robin die, and the baa from the baa black sheep.
When she has finished the mixture, the witch sniffs the steam from the cauldron, and then sips a little of the brew from the ladle.
Tastes good, and hot enough. Yes, the ladle is red hot. Now that's all except the heart. Fiddle, set the kettle to cool.
Fiddle takes the cauldron from over the fire and sets it in the corner.
It's chilly.
She tucks up her skirts and sits down comfortably on the blazing fire.
Ah, that feels good. Nothing to do now but wait for Snow White's heart. But then you shall see what you shall see. A beautiful head of long wavy hair. Ah, here's Brangamar at last.
Queen Brangamar enters. Fiddle bows low to her.
Sorry to be late, dear Hexie, but Berthold never returned till morning, and then I had to see personally to having him locked up in the Grey Tower. He made a frightful fuss, but I was afraid to trust him.
Did he bring the heart?
Yes, here it is. Oh, how I hated that child.
Hair restorer's just ready for it. Help me up. Don't like to sit on the fire too long. I dozed off the other day and boiled over. Now the heart.
She takes it and hobbles to the cauldron.
Receipt says that when I add this, the brew will turn beautiful pink. Then I dip in my head, and presto! Long, lovely hair. Now watch.
She drops the heart into the cauldron, which steams vigorously, dancing with delight.
See it steam.
But it's turning green, not pink.
So it is. Still, there can't be any mistake. I was most careful. Well, here goes for a handsome head of hair. You'll hardly know me when you see me again.
She dips her head 3 times into the steaming cauldron, and then raises it proudly.
How's that? Pretty fine, eh?
Surely something has sprouted on the witch's bald pate. The queen looks carefully, and then bursts into a peal of laughter, and Fiddle, holding his sides, rolls on the ground in mirth.
What are you laughing at? Feels very thick and curly. Stop that cackling.
Oh, my dear Hex, you have a head full of pigtails.
Pigtails? Nonsense. It's short and curly.
Not pigtails, Hexie. Your head is covered with the little white curly tails of pigs.
She feels the growth carefully.
By hopscotch! They are pigs' tails. Stop laughing. If the joke's on anybody, it's on you. Instead of a human heart, your precious huntsman has brought back the heart of a pig, and Miss Snow White is alive this moment. Ha ha for you.
What? Snow White alive?
If these are pig's tails, that was a pig's heart. Ask your magic mirror if Snow White's not alive.
Seizing the mirror which hangs from her girdle.
Mirror, mirror, in my hand, who's the fairest in the land?
You who hold me in your hand, you were fairest in the land, but today I answer true, Snow White is more fair than you.
Snow White alive!
She starts to dash the mirror to the ground. Seizing it,
Be careful with that mirror, I tell you. Mirror, mirror, truly tell, where doth Princess Snow White dwell?
Mid the ancient forest dells, with the 7 dwarfs she dwells.
You see, your deceitful huntsman has let Snow White escape, and brought back a pig's heart to fool us with. Snow White has found the house of the 7 dwarfs, and there you are, my merry lady.
The 7 dwarfs? Who are they?
Rather nice little men. Sort of gnomes. Live all alone. Never saw them myself.
Wrapping her cloak about her.
Where do they live?
Oh ho! Intend to deal with Snow White yourself this time, do you?
Where do they live?
The usual way is about 20 miles over the mountains, but there's a shortcut through my backyard. Less than a mile away.
Give me a knife or a dagger, quickly.
What? Walk into the dwarf's house, knife in hand, and crown on your head like that? I'd sooner dance into a hornet's nest. Really, Brangamar, if I were you, I'd swap brains with the grasshopper.
But what shall I do? She's alive. She's more beautiful than I. My heart will burn itself out of my body like a live coal. Tell me some way.
Dearie me, have I got to plan it all out for you again? You're a nuisance.
How? How?
There's only one safe way.
Yes?
First, I must transform you into a different-looking person altogether.
And then?
And then give you some means of disposing of Snow White that the dwarves can't trace back to you. Fiddle, fetch me the deadly poison things.
Ah, poison. Yes, that's it.
Fiddle fetches an odd-looking box full of strange articles from the magic chest. Examining them.
Almost none left. A pair of poison slippers, no use. Poison pipe, no. Oh, here, the best thing in the box, the poisoned apple. Beautiful, isn't it? Only the red side is poisoned. The white side is perfectly good. If you want to tempt anybody, eat the white side yourself, but the least bite of the red side, and down they drop like a tombstone. But no, you're not clever enough to be trusted with that. Here we are, the poisoned comb, the very thing.
Let me see it.
She seizes the jeweled comb.
Put that in Snow White's hair, let it stay there while you count to 100. And that's all over with her. It doesn't work instantly like the apple, but it's much safer with a stupid person like you.
How my fingers itch to set this in her black hair. Now, what disguise?
Disguise? Oh, yes. Fiddle, bring me the transformation mixtures.
Fiddle brings from the chest 3 odd-shaped bottles, one filled with green, one with purple, and one with orange liquid.
Are these all? My entire stock of magic's running out. Lucky I'm going to retire from business next year.
Attempting to seize a bottle.
Let me see.
Don't snatch. Wretched manners. I'll read the labels. 5 drops before breakfast. Well, I declare I've written out the doses most carefully, but totally forgotten what they change people into. But that's easily remedied. A drop of each in the cauldron, and you'll see for yourself. Now watch.
She reads one. She pours a few drops from the green bottle into the cauldron. Instantly a cloud of steam rises, and in the steam, dimly at first, and then quite clearly, appears the figure of an old and wrinkled hag in threadbare garments. On one arm she carries a large basket filled with ribbons, laces, needles, thread, and such articles.
I remember. The old peddler woman disguise. Just the thing. You could pretend to be selling Snow White the comb. But let's see what the others are anyhow.
She pours some drops from the purple bottle into the cauldron. The image of the peddler woman vanishes. In its place appears the figure of a small naked baby.
Oh, the baby! I used that once myself. Caught an awful cold, too. Useless for you. Now how about this orange mixture?
She pours from the orange bottle. This time the image is that of a stout, jovial, red-faced man. He wears an apron and has a green patch over one eye. Balanced on his head he carries a tray full of various sorts of pies.
That's the one-eyed pieman. Good, but not as good as the peddler woman for your purpose.
What is a pieman?
Man who sells pies, stupid. What did you suppose? But a pieman wouldn't be selling combs. Peddler woman it is. Green bottle. Dose 1 tablespoonful with peppermint after. Haven't got any peppermint, but that was only to take away the taste.
She produces a spoon and uncorks the bottle.
Is the taste very bad?
Vile. Really one of the nastiest tastes I've ever made. Open your mouth.
Is being transformed painful?
No, but unpleasant. Feels as though you were being turned inside out like a glove. Open your mouth.
I think, on the whole, I'll wait till tomorrow. You see, I have an important tea party at court this afternoon, and,
Oh ho, cowardly, cowardly custard. Here, Fiddle, here's sport for you. Get the black mantle.
From the chest, Fiddle whisks a large black cloth embroidered with strange-looking symbols, and advances toward the Queen.
What is he going to do?
Wrap you up so you can't scratch while I pour this down your throat.
But I'm not ready. I must go home first.
She makes a dash for the door, but Fiddle is before her. Then begins a lively chase about the cave, the Queen running and dodging, Fiddle following and trying to throw the black mantle over her head. The witch enjoys it all hugely, crying, "Run, Brangamar! Catch her, Fiddle!" and slapping her old knees with delight till she is quite out of breath. At last Fiddle succeeds in cornering Queen Brangamar, and throws the mantle over her head.
Well done, Fiddle, well done. Trip her up and sit on her.
Fiddle does so. The witch also sits down on the squirming Queen, and humming happily to herself, pours out a tablespoonful of the green mixture.
Now where is her mouth?
I won't take it, I won't.
Oh, there it is. Thank you, Brangamar.
She pours the dose through the cloth into the Queen's mouth, and as the Queen writhes, she goes on.
I know it tastes bad, but nothing to make such a fuss about.
Suddenly, she holds up a warning finger.
I feel her changing. Do you?
Fiddle nods.
Done. Up with her, off with the mantle. Let's see the result.
Fiddle draws off the mantle. Lo! The Queen has been transformed into the likeness of the old peddler woman, just as it appeared in the steam, basket of goods and all.
Splendid. Wouldn't recognize you myself, Brangamar. Hope you haven't lost the poison comb. No, here it is in your hand. Now, it wasn't half as bad as you thought it would be, was it?
It was awful. Why, is this my voice?
Of course. Different voice with every disguise.
I'm all cramps, too. How do I change back?
Dear me, luckily you thought to ask. I might have forgotten. Just say, peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot, 9 days old. But say it backwards, like this. Old days 9, pot in the porridge peas, cold porridge peas, hot porridge peas. That turns you right side out again.
I must remember. Let me see. Old days 9.
But the witch claps her hand over Brangamar's mouth.
Gracious woman, don't say it yet. We'd have to do this all over again. Really, you are the most senseless... Oh, be off with you. I've had quite enough of you for one day.
Now for Snow White. Oh, Hex, once I set this in her hair and see her lying dead before my own eyes.
Don't forget to count to 100.
It will be the happiest moment of my life.
Nasty disposition.
Going to the door.
You shan't escape me this time, my little beauty. You have no soft-hearted Berthold to deal with now, but Brangamar her very self.
And off she strides toward the house of the 7 dwarfs. Left alone with Fiddle, the witch goes to the blazing fire and again sits down upon it thoughtfully.
Poor little Snow White. I'm afraid her goose is cooked this time. I'm really sorry for her. I don't bear her any ill will in spite of my pig's tails. Fiddle, bring my mirror.
Fiddle brings the mirror, and Witch Hex studies her new appearance carefully.
Oh, not so bad after all. They're quite becoming. Sure to keep their curl in the dampest weather, and certainly the very latest thing.
The curtain falls. End of Scene 4.